Flume was once part of an adventure group she trusted with her life. The people she believed were her closest friends. But when her weakness became a burden, they didn't protect her. They told her to roll over and die. Abandoned, betrayed, sold to a slave trader like she was nothing. At the lowest point of her life, when all hope was gone, something inside her awakened. A hidden, cursed power. The girl they threw away, the girl they told to die, was no longer weak. This is a story of Flume, and the curse that changed her fate forever. The anime opens inside an ominous, dungeon-like facility crawling with centipedes and insects. The kind of place modern people refuse to spend even a single night in, not even for $1 million and a written apology. This dungeon functions as a slave prison. Everyone trapped inside is starving, hallucinating, and enduring what is easily the worst day of their lives, with no hope of survival. The prisoners lack even the energy to speak, and their bones bulge grotesquely through their skin from severe malnutrition. The main character, Flume Apricot, awakens and immediately realizes she has landed in what can only be described as hell with worse interior design. As she scans her surroundings, her gaze locks onto a young girl sitting alone in the corner, completely isolated and strangely unbothered. The girl's eyes are striking, beautiful enough to look as though they were traded for gemstones. Yet they are hollow, empty, and utterly devoid of life. Unlike the other prisoners, she does not beg, cry, or plead to be saved. She simply sits there, not because she is brave, but because she has never known a good day in her life. She has never been close enough to freedom to desire it, nor has she ever understood the concept of hope. Ironically, this ignorance becomes a perfect coping mechanism, keeping her calm even in the grimmest circumstances, though only because she cannot imagine anything better than this existence. Flume, meanwhile, struggles to process her situation. Before she can even gather her thoughts, a grotesquely fat man covered in rings appears outside the cell. With a smug grin and a voice dripping with contempt, he announces that everyone present is a slave, and a worthless one at that. According to him, even slaves must meet a minimum standard to be valuable, and these prisoners fail spectacularly. He declares their worthlessness a personal offense, complaining that he wasted good money buying and feeding them despite receiving nothing in return. While one might assume this would be the point where he cuts his losses and releases them, kindness clearly never appears on his character sheet. Instead, he unleashes a horde of monsters into dungeon, eager to entertain himself by watching useless lives die in agony. As death closes in, Flume's mind floods with memories. She recalls being chosen by the Origin to fight demons and join a prestigious group from her village. That pride quickly collapses into bitterness as she remembers becoming the weakest member, more burdened than help. She relives the painful moment her childhood friend, Cyril, abandons her after growing strong, leaving her behind without a second glance. To make matters worse, one of her former comrades is the very person who sold her to the slave owner, now watching her die for amusement. Back in the present, chaos erupts. Some prisoners attempt to flee the ghouls and fail miserably. One desperate man grabs a sword from the cell, only to discover it is cursed. The blade promptly vaporizes his frail body down to the bone, proving that optimism remains a dangerous hobby in this dungeon. Soon, only Flume and the silent girl in the corner remain alive. Each passing second stretches into an eternity as Flume faces her inevitable death. She realizes she has only one choice left, not whether she will die, but how. She can allow the ghouls to tear her apart, or she can take the cursed sword and go down fighting. Summoning every last ounce of strength, she chooses the sword. This decision changes everything. Instead of being destroyed, her wounds heal instantly the moment she touches the blade. Rather than being crushed by its weight, her body feels lighter and faster. Hope surges through her veins before her mind can even process what is happening. Acting purely on instinct, Flume cuts down the 3 feeble ghouls in front of her with ease. Her next target is the slave owner himself, less a man and more an overgrown pig in jewelry. He desperately begs for his life, but Flume's rage drowns out any possibility of mercy. She drives the cursed blade straight through him, granting him a death far quicker than he deserves. With the dungeon cleared, Flume grabs the only surviving girl and escapes. Along the way, they are harassed by men with oversized muscles and severely underdeveloped brains, but Flume has more important concerns than background NPCs with bad dialogue. They take refuge in a narrow alley, where Flume finally begins to piece everything together. She realizes the truth about her ability. Affinity, the very power that kept her weak all this time, reverses positives into negatives and negatives into positives. In other words, cursed weapons empower her instead of destroying her. The same ability that once crippled her potential now explains everything. With this revelation, Flume heads straight to the town's licensing department to obtain a hero permit. The receptionist immediately eyes Flume and her companion with thinly veiled skepticism. She doubts someone so scrawny could survive monster hunting and casually suggests an alternative career path instead, one involving a brothel. In not-so-subtle terms, She implies Flume will be better suited for spreading her legs than spilling monster blood. Flume, unimpressed and unwavering, insists on the job. At that moment, an A-rank hunter named Dine steps in. With sharp wit and smooth persuasion, he convinces a receptionist to give Flume a chance and personally hands her a mission. Grateful for the kindness, Flume wastes no time setting out. Unfortunately for her, the mission is far from simple, and Dine is far more dangerous and mysterious than he lets on. The next episode opens with Flume desperately scrubbing at the fresh mark on her face, the one left behind by a former party member. No matter how hard she rubs, the stain refuses to fade. As exhaustion sets in, her thoughts drift back to the day Jean sold her into slavery. He had not even cared about being paid. All that mattered to him was never having to see her face again. With those cold words, he had handed her over to a slave trader without a second thought. Memories she wishes she could bury resurface. The cruelty of the trader, the humiliation and the pain that followed. Eventually, Flume stops trying to erase the mark altogether. She collapses onto the ground, staring blankly at the sky. It is then that Milkit appears, seemingly out of nowhere, and strikes up a conversation. She hesitantly asks whether her own appearance bothers Flume. True to her gentle nature, Flume assures her that there is nothing wrong with how Milkit looks. Milkit, however, cannot comprehend the idea that someone like her was saved at all. She admits that she believes she was never worth saving, and asks Flume why she chose to help her in the first place. Flume confesses that she does not fully understand her own reasons. After some thought, she admits it might be tied to her ego, having been abandoned by her former party and declared utterly useless. Saving someone else who had been cast aside by the world may have offered her a sense of closure. Milkit admits that Flume's explanation makes little sense to her. Flume, in turn, acknowledges that she does not understand her own emotions either. Back at the guild, a man casually asks if anyone is willing to bet on Flume and Milkit returning alive from their mission. No one accepts. To everyone present, the two women are already dead. Although the job is labeled as F rank, the monster they are meant to face is clearly D rank or higher. Elsewhere in the guild, Dine reunites with an old acquaintance. Their conversation turns to a recent incident. A black market slave trader has been found dead in the center of town. What truly unsettles them is not the murder itself, but the fact that the investigation is being handled by the church's knights rather than the royal army. The situation reeks of corruption. Dine immediately suspects a connection to the illegal black medicine trade. A sly smile spreads across his face as he realizes exactly how he can turn the chaos to his advantage. Meanwhile, Flume and Milkit arrive at their target location. Their relief vanishes the moment they discover the monster's level, 512. Flume instantly understands the implications. The guild had deliberately set them up, assigning a job far beyond their rank in hopes of getting them killed. What the guild failed to account for, however, was Flume herself. With a stat level nearing 1,000, she is far stronger than they assumed. That realization brings little comfort when Flume senses something else. There is more than one werewolf. She recalls her mentor's teachings. Werewolves hunt in packs, and encountering one always means others are nearby. Her fears deepen when a fifth werewolf suddenly begins behaving erratically. The creature grows violently aggressive, performing the unthinkable, merging its body with the others. Its power surges, its stats skyrocketing to nearly 2,000. The transformed werewolf immediately locks onto Flume's position and unleashes a devastating attack. The tree she'd been hiding behind is obliterated in an instant, leaving no doubt about the threat she faces. Acting on instinct, Flume draws her sword and braces herself, holding the monster at bay long enough to order Milkit to escape. The werewolf attacks relentlessly. Flume dodges several strikes with ease, and even manages to block one head-on. The exchange gives her confidence. She can fight this thing. As the battle continues, she notices a pattern in the creature's movements. Seizing the opportunity, she counters its attack and charges forward, slicing it cleanly in half and landing behind it. Even bisected, the monster refuses to fall. It twists its body unnaturally and lashes out, managing to slash Flume's arm. The wound burns with agonizing pain, infused with strange and hostile magic. Flume channels her healing ability through her sword, restoring herself almost instantly. Watching her arm regenerate, she briefly wonders whether she herself has become something monstrous. Refusing to hesitate, she attacks again, this time splitting the werewolf vertically, confident that the fight is finally over. Believing the battle won, Flume moves to collect the creature's head as proof for the guild. To her horror, the severed head suddenly comes alive and bites down on her arm. She staggers back, fighting to steady herself. Despite her powerful healing magic, the wound will not regenerate. The creature's saliva carries a twisted magic that repeatedly racks her arm with unbearable pain. Gritting her teeth, Flume makes a brutal decision. With only a moment of hesitation, she severs her own arm. The pain is excruciating, but only for a moment. Her healing magic restores a limb within seconds. For an instant, Flume considers running, but doing so would mean remaining the same powerless person she has always been. Instead, she steps forward once more, faces a monster head-on, and resolves to end the battle. This time, she destroys it for good. Meanwhile, Milkit flees deep into the forest, where isolation leaves her alone with her thoughts. As she hides among the trees, memories of her past resurface. She has always been a slave, and the cruel words of her former owners echo relentlessly in her mind, being told she was worthless, that slaves were not human, and that killing her would not even count as murder. Even though her life had been an immediate danger moment ago, those words dominate her thoughts. She has lived so long, without valuing her own existence, that fear no longer registers the way it should. Her spiraling thoughts are abruptly interrupted when Flume appears, completely unharmed by the battle with the werewolf. Milkit is stunned and deeply relieved. Flume is the first master she has ever known who shows no sign of cruelty. Kindness is something Milkit is utterly unaccustomed to, and because of that, she believes she does not deserve it. In her eyes, she is unworthy of Flume. Summoning her courage, Milkit removes the bandage she always wears and reveals a scarred face beneath it. She calls herself ugly and insists that Flume should sell her to someone else, claiming she is useless and only a burden. Flume refuses to see her that way. Without hesitation, she pulls Milkit into a firm embrace and tells her that scars are no reason to abandon someone. For the first time in her life, Milkit experiences genuine affection, something freely given without conditions. In that moment, she realizes she wants to stay with Flume. Neither of them truly understands what happiness feels like, but they agree to search for it together until they can finally grasp it. Elsewhere, the party that betrayed Flume finds themselves struggling. With Flume gone, they quickly realize that she'd been the only one capable of cooking edible meals. Now forced to prepare food themselves, they can barely bring themselves to swallow what they make. After defeating the werewolves, Flume and Milkit return to the Adventurers Guild to collect their reward. When nearby adventurers overhear that the payment is for a werewolf kill, they openly mock Flume. In their eyes, a slave could never defeat such a monster. Flume responds by calmly drawing her cursed sword and knocking one of the men off his chair, asserting her authority without a word. The receptionist verifies the kills and hands over the reward, leaving the entire guild hall in stunned silence. The two then head to a small inn, where the owner treats them with unexpected warmth and dignity. For the first time in a long while, Flume feels safe. Being treated like a human being, rather than a tool or an outcast, is exactly what she needed. That night, she feels genuinely hopeful about the future. She suggests that she and Milkit go shopping the next day. Milkit hesitates, insisting that there is no point in buying clothes for a slave. Flume counters firmly, declaring that as Milkit's master, she orders her to come along. The words are spoken lightly, but they mark the beginning of something far more meaningful, a bond between two girls. One had never possessed anything in her life, while the other had lost everything she once had. Yet, beyond the distant trees, danger still lingers. Deep within the forest, the werewolf Flume believes she had slain stirs, barely alive. With hatred burning in its eyes, it utters a chilling vow: "You will pay." The third episode opens with Milkit undergoing a complete makeover. She is getting a new haircut, a new dress, and an overall transformation that drastically changes not only her appearance, but also how she feels about herself. Flume, too, is wearing new clothes. After all, slaying a werewolf is no small feat, and the rewards they earn are finally allowing them to live a little more comfortably. Despite the fresh look, Milkit is unable to fully accept Flume's kindness. Having spent her entire life as a slave, she does not know how to respond to such generosity. In her mind, all she can think about is how wasteful it is to spend so much money on her. She believes she could have served Flume just as well in the cheapest clothes available. Instead, Flume has gone out of her way to buy her expensive garments and make her look presentable. Noticing Milkit's discomfort, Flume places a hand on her shoulder and gently reminds her that Milkit matters to her. She explains that Milkit's happiness is directly tied to her own. Reassured, the two continue shopping, purchasing several more items before eventually heading down a stairway. Their calm moment is abruptly interrupted when a man deliberately bumps into them. It is clear that he does so intentionally, using the encounter as an excuse to harass two slaves. The mark on Flume's face openly identifies her as a slave, despite the fact that she killed her former master and escaped. Moments later, the man who shoved her is robbed by two of Dine's men. Flume notices what happens but feels no immediate urge to intervene. However, when the thieves target another victim, Flume is compelled to act, activating her cursed armor, which grants her incredible agility. She quickly gives chase. The two thieves split up, fleeing in opposite directions, and briefly leaving Flume uncertain about whom to pursue. Her hesitation is short-lived when another girl joins the chase, pursuing one of the thieves and calling out to Flume to take the other. Flume follows her lead and quickly catches her target. Desperate, the man attempts to fight back by casting a fire spell, but Flume neutralizes it with ease. She closes the distance in an instant and snaps his arm, effectively ending the threat. Soon after, the girl Flume encountered earlier appears before her again, greeting her calmly after successfully capturing her own target. She reveals herself to be a nun from the Church of Origin, and it becomes immediately apparent that her abilities are extraordinary, with her stats far surpassing those of an ordinary individual. Together, they reunite with the victim of the robbery, who is revealed to be Leechman Cathy, the wealthy owner of a large and prosperous shop. His status and obvious affluence immediately catch Flume off guard, leaving her surprised to find herself standing in the presence of someone so important. Sarah introduces herself to Leech as well, and calmly suggests that the robbers have likely learned their lesson. In her view, it may now be safe to release them. As she speaks, Sarah reflects on her own past, recalling the severe punishments she once received for disobedience. She quietly wonders how those experiences shaped her unwavering ability to follow rules without hesitation. Flume, observing her, cannot help but be astonished by the nun's innocence. Despite possessing overwhelming power, Sarah remains remarkably naive. Flume explains to her that in the real world, criminals like these cannot simply be beaten and released, as a single punishment rarely breaks such habits. Instead, they must be restrained to prevent further harm. After learning that Sarah is a nun, and that Flume is an adventurer, Leech asks to speak with Flume privately, away from Sarah's ears. He confides in her that he has a job offered specifically for her skills as an adventurer. While Flume finds him polite and likable, she cannot shake the feeling that something is amiss. If the job is legitimate, she wonders, why is he not posting it through the official channels of the Adventurers Guild? Despite her instincts warning her otherwise, Flume chooses to hear him out. Leech appears sincere, and his desperation feels genuine. He explains that his wife is gravely ill and that the only way to cure her is through herbal medicine. However, the church has banned the use of herbs for healing, claiming that such practices border on heresy and interfere with divine healing. In truth, the ban exists to allow the church to monopolize the healing industry. Flume admits that the offer is tempting. Taking the job directly would mean she would not have to surrender a portion of her earnings to the guild. Still, the risk is enormous. If they are caught, they would be forced to face the church itself, the most powerful organization in the city. Leech's secrecy also explains why he was unwilling to discuss the matter in front of Sarah, who is a nun of that very church. Before the conversation can continue, Sarah unexpectedly approaches him and remarks that Leech has a peculiar expression on his face. She comments that it is the look of someone searching for herbs, and she can tell. Leech freezes for a moment, but Sarah quickly puts him at ease by saying that she personally believes the use of herbal medicine is acceptable. She explains that, as a nun, her foremost duty is to help those in need, regardless of doctrine. Moved by her words, both Flume and Sarah agree to accept the job, deciding that the greater good outweighs the risks involved. Meanwhile, elsewhere in the city, Dine receives word that 2 of his men have been captured thanks to Flume's interference. Angered by the setback, he summons 2 of his remaining subordinates, already plotting a scheme to return the favor. That night, Flume goes to bed with a heavy heart. The pain of losing her closest companions is still raw, and memories of the past continue to haunt her. As she lies awake, she recalls the many times her former party mistreated her, including the moment when her wounds were left unhealed because Jean had judged her unworthy of spending mana on. She also remembers how formidable that team had been, both in knowledge and in power. Each memory resurfaces with sharp sting, reminding her of what she lost and how deeply it hurt. The following day, Flume, Sarah, and Milkit set out on their journey in search of the Chialry flower, the key ingredient needed to create the herbal medicine that could cure Leech's wife. Milkit prepares a large number of sandwiches for the group, and everyone praises their taste as they travel. Along the way, Flume learns more about Sarah's past. She discovers that Sarah was taken in by the church at the age of 2, after her village was completely destroyed by demons. It is clear that Sarah harbors a deep hatred toward demons, and possesses an unshakable resolve to eradicate them. Flume also learns that Sarah's mentor, Lady Maria, suffered the same fate. This revelation stirs another painful memory, as Flume recalls that one of her former party members had also lost her village to demons and shared that same hatred. Elsewhere, the hero's party finds itself struggling against a demon they encounter. The creature toys with them effortlessly, and the only reason they survive is because the Demon King has temporarily forbidden the spilling of human blood. Jean grows increasingly agitated when one of his teammates fails to perform properly, burdened by guilt over abandoning Flume. In his frustration, Jean blames their weakness on the humiliation they suffer and condemns their magic as inadequate. Meanwhile, Flume, Sarah, and Milkit arrive at the village near their destination, where the Chialry flower is said to grow. An elderly woman welcomes them warmly, offering her hospitality, and even preparing beds for them to sleep in. Overcome by excitement at the sight of such comfortable accommodations, their childish sides emerge, and the 3 of them jump onto the bed like carefree children. They rest deeply that night, regaining their strength for the task ahead. The next morning, the old woman warns them that a dangerous monster lurks in the direction they plan to travel. Many have attempted to retrieve the herbal flower, yet none have ever returned. Despite the warning, Flume and Sarah decide to proceed, leaving Milka behind since she lacks combat experience. Soon after entering the area, they encounter a powerful ogre with an exceptionally high level. Fortunately, it does not notice their presence, allowing them to execute a successful stealth kill. Pressing deeper into the dungeon in search of the Kialari flower, disaster strikes when a sudden explosion seals off the cave's exit. Flume and Sarah immediately identify the culprits as two men working under Dine. Flume deduces that Dine is seeking revenge, but she realizes they now face a far greater threat. Another ogre emerges, far more terrifying than the first. Where its face should be, there's only a spiraling vortex. They attempt to remain hidden, but the ogre quickly senses their presence and launches a brutal attack, severing Flume's leg. Sarah desperately tries to heal her, but Flume's curse reversal causes the magic to backfire, worsening the injury. Acting swiftly, Sarah grabs Flume and puts distance between them and the monster. Flume then heals herself using the power of reversal and her cursed sword. Despite their efforts, the two are overwhelmingly outmatched and are forced to flee. Their escape leads them to a massive, bottomless chasm with no visible end. Realizing there is no other way to survive, Flume concludes that jumping is their only option. Sarah hesitates, fear gripping her, but Flume takes her hand and leaps into the darkness regardless. The fourth episode opens with Flume and Sarah continuing their descent into the void they had leapt into earlier. After falling for what feels like an endless stretch of time, they finally land in a place swallowed by darkness, where not even the faintest trace of sunlight can reach. Surrounded by silence and shadows, the two cautiously move from room to room, searching desperately for a way out. Their exploration eventually leads them to what appears to be an abandoned research facility. Flume struggles to keep her composure as the weight of the situation bears down on her. Although she tries to remain calm for Sarah's sake, the oppressive atmosphere is clearly overwhelming. In a moment of carelessness, she drops her torch into a deep, lightless pit. As it falls, the brief glow reveals a horrifying sight. Countless dead bodies pile below. The discovery nearly shatters her resolve, but she forces herself to stay steady. Acting quickly, she guides the innocent Sarah away from the pit before the child can glimpse the gruesome scene. As they press on, Flume notices an ominous spiral engraved into ground. The symbol immediately unsettles her, as it mirrors the spiral carved into the ogre's face they had only just escaped from. The realization that these events might be connected begins to take shape, yet there are still too many missing pieces to form a complete picture. Questions pile up in Flume's mind, each more troubling than the last. Their unease deepens when Sarah reveals a book she has found nearby. Flume opens it and reads aloud a passage filled with disturbing thoughts. The text speaks of an experiment spiraling out of control, doubts about fragile links, and a bitter rejection of divine will and national duty. It fixates on the desire to connect, to be linked at any cost, claiming that true wisdom and true peace can only be achieved through judgment, perhaps even control. Yet it is not the unsettling philosophy that shakes Flume the most. What truly strikes at the core is a single detail hidden within the book. Her name, Flume Apricot, is written there. The implication is chilling, as if the experiments described were never random at all, but somehow meant to reach her specifically. As this grim realization begins to sink in, Sarah is the first to notice a faint cry for help echoing through the darkness. Flume barely registers the sound, her thoughts consumed by doubt and fear, but Sarah, despite the suffocating, ominous atmosphere that seems designed to crush one's survival instincts, manages to stay alert. Trusting Sarah's instincts, the two decide to follow the voice. Their path leads them into a room starkly different from the rest, bright and white, almost sterile. Yet, despite the sudden clarity, the sense of unease never leaves them. In the corner of the room, they spot a girl sitting alone with her head bowed. Believing she may be in danger, Flume and Sarah cautiously approach her, intent only on helping. When they try to rouse her, the girl suddenly lifts her head, revealing a face that is not human at all, but a grotesque spiral, identical to that of the ogre they had fled from earlier. Before either of them can react, the creature seizes Flume's hand and drags it into the spiraling vortex of its face. As if the situation were not dire enough, the ogre that had been pursuing them emerges once more. With Flume's arm trapped and escape seemingly impossible, her death appears imminent. Acting without hesitation, Sarah uses her healing magic in a desperate and painful gamble, severing Flume's arm to free her. The timing proves just right. The ogre's attack strikes the spiral-faced creature instead of Flume. Seizing their chance, the two girls flee and race back to the dark laboratory, where they had previously discovered the book. There, they find another pit. Without hesitation, Flume recreates the same dreadful deja vu for both of them by leaping into it once again. They land amid a mass of corpses, the stench of death surrounding them. Sarah, horrified, questions how a pile of dead bodies could possibly help them escape. fearing they have cornered themselves. Flume, however, has a different plan. She explains that she is searching for cursed equipment among the corpses. Anything that might raise her stats enough to confront the ogre head-on. As they speak, the monster appears yet again, more violent and relentless than before. This time, fortune favors them. They uncover a cursed item suited for Flume's reversal, a pair of cursed boots. Under normal circumstances, the boots would reduce one's stats by over 2,000 points and freeze the wearer's body. For Flume, however, the effect is completely inverted. Sarah's expression lights up like that of a devout nun witnessing a miracle. But Flume quickly warns her not to celebrate prematurely. Empowered, Flume launches a flurry of slashes, yet the ogre refuses to fall. Instead, it encases itself in crystalline armor, rendering her attacks ineffective. In that moment, Flume recalls a powerful technique taught to her long ago by her mentor, Cavalier Arts. The technique converts all the user's stamina into a potent magical force known as prana, at the cost of requiring a long charge time. Understanding the risk, Sarah takes upon herself to buy Flume the time she needs, standing her ground despite the danger. Once the charge is complete, Flume unleashes the attack, striking the ogre and bringing it crashing down. For a brief moment, it seems the nightmare is over. Then the ogre begins to rise once more. Realizing she failed to execute the technique perfectly, Flume gathers every last ounce of strength she has left. She launches the attack a second time, this time without hesitation or error, and finally slays the beast for good. After the beast is finally slain, a female demon emerges in the shadows and calmly retrieves the ogre's remaining core. She reflects aloud on how profoundly cruel humans must be to have created something so grotesque, so overflowing with hatred. Turning her attention to Flume, she addresses her familiarly as Flumey. Rather than threatening or killing her, the demon unexpectedly transports Flume to a beautiful garden, intending only to speak with her. When Flume regains consciousness, she instinctively analyzes the demon's stats and is stunned to see that they exceed 30,000, higher than anything she has ever encountered. Alarmed, Sarah rushes forward and attempts to strike the demon, but her attack is effortlessly nullified as the demon traps her inside a floating bubble, rendering her completely harmless. A tense conversation follows, centered on the long-standing conflict between demons and humans. The demon explains her kind no longer kills humans and swears that such actions have ceased. Sarah vehemently rejects this claim, insisting that demons slaughtered her entire village. In response, the demon calmly asks whether Sarah truly witnessed the massacre herself, or whether her belief was shaped by the church's propaganda, which harbors deep hatred toward demons. Faced with the question, Sarah finds herself unable to argue back. The demon then reveals that the horrific experiments they encounter were being conducted under the authority of the church itself. Flume struggles to accept such an accusation, but Sarah supports the claim, recalling the symbols she had seen etched into the walls, marks that clearly indicated the church's jurisdiction over the facility. It also becomes evident that the church had no intention of allowing the tortured test subjects to ever become public knowledge. Realizing her mistake, Sarah apologizes for her hostility, and the tension between them eases. In time, they reach an understanding and form an unlikely alliance with the demon. Together, they locate the Kyalari flower and finally begin their journey back home. Yet despite their escape, many questions remain unanswered, especially the mystery surrounding Flume's involvement in everything that has transpired. Why was her name written in the records, and what role does she truly play in all of this? The 5th episode opens with Flume and Sarah returning to their temporary home after a long, exhausting day. They expect the usual warm welcome from Milkit and Stud, but the moment they open the door, they are struck by an unsettling silence. The house is shrouded in pitch darkness, and the absence of any greeting immediately fills them with dread. The last thing they had anticipated. As they cautiously move inside, they notice disturbing traces of blood scattered across the house. This grim discovery confirms their worst fears. The home has clearly been attacked by burglars. Their anxiety escalates when they soon come across Stud and her grandmother, lying motionless on the floor, both appearing lifeless at first glance. Flume is overwhelmed with fury at the sight, her emotions spiraling as she desperately searches for the last person she left behind. Milkit, after a frantic search, she finds her in the bedroom just in time to see a man about to slit her throat. The sheer horror of the scene ignites an uncontrollable rage within Flume. Without hesitation, she draws her cursed sword and lunges at the attacker. With chilling precision, she slices him cleanly in half, ending his threat instantly. However, another intruder is still present. Terrified after witnessing his partner's brutal end, he attempts to escape through a window. Unfortunately for him, Flume catches up almost immediately, pinning him down just outside before he can flee. Just as she prepares to deliver the final blow, Sarah intervenes, grabbing Flume and urgently telling her that Stud and her grandmother are still alive, injured, but not dead. Sarah insists there is no need for further killing. Sensing a moment of distraction, the captured culprit seizes his chance. He raises his knife and presses it against Flume's throat, seemingly convinced this will force her to beg for mercy. Instead, his desperate act only intensifies her anger. In a shocking display of defiance, Flume deliberately pushes her own throat further against the blade, demonstrating how insignificant his threat is against the cursed healing power of her reversal ability. Having asserted her dominance, she calmly retaliates by slitting his throat. The man dies, pleading for a miracle that never comes. Flume coldly remarks that watching him beg for his life felt strangely satisfying. Afterward, she places a hand on Sarah's shoulder and firmly states that people like those intruders cannot be saved. In her view, once someone has fallen that deeply into darkness, the only solution left is to end them. The episode continues with Flume immediately returning to Milk It after dealing with the two intruders who had broken into the house. Before stepping inside her room, she removes her blood-stained clothes, clearly not wanting Milk It to see the aftermath of the violence. To her immense relief, she finds that Milk It is physically unharmed. However, her torn clothing strongly suggests that the attacker had far more sinister intentions, a realization that leaves Flume shaken and on the verge of tears. Despite the danger she just faced, Milk It appears far less concerned about her own safety than about the damaged clothes. She explains that those garments had been a gift from Flume and held deep sentimental value for her. She laments that she had failed to protect them. Speaking with genuine sadness, this response overwhelms Flume emotionally. Fighting back tears, she firmly tells Milk It that clothes should be the last thing on her mind. Her life is what truly matters. Flume goes on to confess that she feels guilty for arriving too late, and even says that Milk It would have every right to be angry with her. She repeatedly emphasizes that their bond is not one of master and slave, but one of friendship. In a heartfelt promise, she vows to make Milk It as happy and cared for as possible from now on. Milk It admits that, although she still struggles with seeing herself as anything other than a servant, a small part of her had instinctively hoped Flume would come to save her when the attack happened. Elsewhere, Sarah, ever compassionate, decides that even the intruders deserve a proper burial and a prayer for their souls. Stud, however, argues that men capable of such acts are undeserving of dignity and death, and remarks that Sarah may simply be too pure-hearted for her own good. Sarah remains uncertain about whether she is doing the right thing, yet she ultimately chooses to proceed with a prayer, guided by her sense of empathy rather than judgment. The following day, Flume, Milk It, and Sarah begin their journey back to their hometown. During the trip, Sarah thoughtfully asks Flume when a person can truly be considered irreversibly evil. Flume responds gently, saying that Sarah does not need to force herself to find an answer immediately. She suggests that such understanding comes with experience and maturity, encouraging Sarah to keep reflecting on the question in her own time until she eventually reaches her own conclusion. Meanwhile, the hero's party is shown growing increasingly agitated and frustrated after suffering several defeats at the hands of the demons. Realizing they are running low on resources, they decide to return to one of their previously secure locations to regroup and gather fresh supplies before continuing the fight. Cyril prepares to cast a teleportation spell by retrieving the magical stone required for the process. However, her shaken emotional state affects her focus, and she accidentally drops the stone. This small mistake immediately draws harsh criticism from Jean, widely regarded as the most abrasive member of the group. He sharply tells her to pull herself together, arguing that even with Flume, whom he describes as their biggest distraction, no longer part of the team, Cyril still fails to perform at full capacity. Cyril quietly apologizes, but Jean seems unwilling to drop the matter until another party member intervenes and firmly tells him to back off. With the tension momentarily diffused, Cyril successfully casts the spell, and the group teleports back to their intended city. Once there, the party disperses to handle their individual tasks. Maria and Linus, however, happen to be heading in the same direction and end up walking together. Their conversation soon turns to Flume, the former member of their group. Linus expresses the opinion that Flume's presence in the hero's party was likely a mistake, even going so far as to suggest that not even divine selection is infallible, given her previously low stats and perceived weakness. He argues that she never truly belonged among them. Maria, however, strongly disagrees. She insists that Lord Origin's choices are never arbitrary, and that there must have been a purpose behind Flume Apricot joining the party. While that reason may not yet be clear, she believes time will eventually reveal the truth. The scene then shifts dramatically to the dinner table of the Demon Lord and her closest allies. During the meeting, the Demon Lord asks Nygas whether her investigation into the mysterious laboratory has yielded any useful information. Nygas reports that the site was an old experimental facility filled with evidence of extensive magical experimentation. She also notes that it once housed a powerful beast, one that Flume reportedly defeated single-handedly. To emphasize her point, Nygas produces one of the shattered core spheres Flume had destroyed. The demons present are stunned, struggling to reconcile this achievement with their previous encounters with the hero's party, during which Flume had always seemed exceptionally weak. It becomes increasingly clear to them that she now wields some form of cursed power far more dangerous than anyone had anticipated. The meeting concludes on a serious note. regardless of Flume's transformation or the hero's activities. The Demon Lord makes it clear that their primary objective remains unchanged. Under no circumstances can any human be allowed to approach the sacred seal. After finally returning to town with the rare flower in hand, Flume heads straight to Like's residence, intending to deliver it so an antidote can be prepared for his wife. Sarah, however, chooses not to accompany her. It is explained that she anticipates Like, being a very wealthy man, will likely insist on offering some form of reward, and as a nun, she cannot bring herself to accept compensation for what she considers a moral duty. When Like later asks about Sarah's absence, Flume smoothly brushes the question aside, explaining that Sarah has important responsibilities at the church and therefore cannot attend. Accepting this, Like immediately sends a flower for verification. While Flume waits, another young woman enters the room and introduces herself as Welsie, a news reporter. She explains that she already knows of Flume, having once interviewed the hero's party, and says it is an honor to meet her again. Welsie begins asking where the Kialari flower was found, and whether anything unusual occurred during the search. She notes that the church has effectively banned medicinal flowers, labeling them forbidden and discouraging anyone from going near them. Flume briefly recalls the ordeal she endured to obtain the flower, but decides the details are not appropriate to discuss here. Instead, she simply states that she encountered nothing out of the ordinary. Their conversation continues, and Welsie openly states that her work as a reporter often involves investigating the church and exposing what she believes to be its hidden, darker side. She hints that there is far more to the institution than people realize. Eventually, pressing matters call her away, but she assures Flume they will stay in contact before leaving. Shortly afterward, the verification results arrive, confirming that the flower is indeed genuine. Like becomes visibly relieved and deeply grateful, insisting on repaying Flume in any way possible. Flume initially declines, saying no reward is necessary, but Like persists. Eventually, she reluctantly admits that she could use a safe hideout in the Western District, so she can continue living and working in the city. Like not only provides such a place, but also arranges safe transportation there. He does warn, however, that the property has not been used for some time and may be dusty. When Flume and Milk arrive, they are surprised to find the house spacious and unexpectedly clean, almost suspiciously so. This immediately puts Flume on guard, leading her to suspect someone else may already be staying there. That suspicion proves correct when Eterna suddenly appears. Eterna immediately notices a slave mark on Flume and demands to know who could have done something so cruel. Flume explains that Jean is responsible and that he claimed the rest of the hero's party had agreed to it. Eterna firmly denies this, stating that none of the party members had any idea Flume had been sold to a slave merchant. According to her, Jean only told him that Flume left of her own free will. This revelation brings clear relief to Flume, as she realizes the hero's party did not betray her after all. The deception was entirely Jean's doing. The atmosphere softens afterward, and they share a meal together. During the conversation, Eterna mentions that, using her herbal knowledge, she should be able to heal the scar on Milket's face, offering a hopeful step forward as they begin settling into this new chapter together. The 6th episode begins with Flume and Milket sleeping peacefully together on a bright new morning in their brand new home. Milket is the first to wake up, and she immediately heads downstairs to begin preparing breakfast. She does this not only out of kindness, but also because of her natural programming to act like a maid. Although Flume has repeatedly tried to help Milket see their relationship in another way, Milket still views it strictly as a typical master-slave dynamic. Soon afterward, Flume wakes from her deep slumber and goes straight to the kitchen. She finds Milket working diligently on breakfast, and her natural instinct is to hug her from behind. However, Milket, who is not used to receiving affection through physical touch, becomes startled by this sudden display of warmth and ends up spilling the food over both herself and Flume. She apologizes profusely right away, but Flume kindly consoles her, explaining that such mistakes happen and there is no need to feel so bad about it. Milket's reaction stems from her ingrained slave conditioning, which compels her to feel guilty over even trivial errors. The two then share a very sweet moment together, one that Eterna quietly observes from a hidden spot. Eventually, breakfast gets prepared, and they all have a hearty meal together. Eterna is surprised at how good Milket's cooking is, and Flume jokingly remarks that her own cooking has essentially been retired ever since Milket came along. According to Flume, Milket's cooking is the best she has ever tasted. However, Eterna confesses that despite the great taste of Milket's cooking, she still misses the meals Flume used to prepare for the hero's party, describing them as some of the finest dishes any of them had ever tasted. She adds that ever since Flume left, they have had to endure rather poor food on their journey. Flume responds that she will soon cook something for Eterna as well, but for now they will simply enjoy Milket's cooking. Once the food is finished, Flume asks Eterna about her plans for the day. Eterna replies that she does not have any, which prompts Flume to mention that she and Milket are planning to go shopping, and that it would be perfect if Eterna joined them. Eterna says she can help by carrying whatever they buy, but Flume responds that she is no longer the weak and feeble person she once was in the hero's party. She shows her stats and flexes her muscles, firmly announcing that she can now take care of herself. The three of them then head out to several stores, purchasing various items since, for the first time in Flume's life, money is not a hindrance. Milk expresses interest in another made dress like the one Flume bought earlier, as that dress holds a special place in her heart because it was the first thing Flume ever bought for her. They also come across a very expensive dinnerware set that none of them can afford, although they leave without it. They promise themselves that they will work hard, earn enough money, and eventually split the cost of that dinnerware set. Their conversation is interrupted by Sarah, who approaches them in a joyful mood. She is surprised to see Eterna with Flume, recognizing her from a hero's party. Soon, they all get some ice cream together, and Eterna explains to Sarah that she parted ways with the heroes because things did not work out with them. Before long, two knights from the church arrive to meet Sarah, and they are equally shocked to see Eterna from the heroes' party sitting with them, reacting much the same way Sarah initially did. The two knights also learn that Flume is Sarah's first friend outside the church, and they express pride in her for making her first few friendships beyond the church. Flume separates herself from her friends and decides to head to the Western Guild to get more jobs so she can earn more money. At the guild, Dine and his men are shown wondering why the men they had sent to take care of Flume once and for all have not returned to town yet. It seems obvious to them that something has gone wrong and that those men are either injured or dead at Flume's hands. Despite realizing this, they continue to underestimate her and begin planning their next scheme to take her down. Dine even remarks that simply beating Flume would be too easy, adding that he would rather torture her mentally before killing her. Eventually, Flume arrives at the guild and heads straight to the reception desk in hopes of landing a good, high-paying job. However, the receptionist informs her that there is no point in accepting any job because they are essentially traps set up by Dine and his men to eliminate her. The receptionist bluntly comments that Flume might have been better off becoming a hooker, as she had previously advised, since attracting the attention of someone like Dine makes it highly unlikely that things will go well for her in this guild. She further advises that the only real way out of the situation is to deal with Dine once and for all. Flume expresses gratitude for the advice and decides not to take any job for now, thinking she will deal with Dine another time. On her way out, Dine notices that Flume has not taken any job and starts a casual conversation in an attempt to persuade her to accept one. He pretends to act friendly, assuming Flume might not know he is the one behind the two men who recently attacked her. However, Flume is fully aware of the truth. Even so, she speaks politely and plays along, because she does not want Dine to become cautious before she eventually decides to settle the score with him. Meanwhile, Eterna teaches Milkina about Flume's very popular cheesecake, explaining that it has the perfect texture and that its ingredients balance the taste perfectly. She recalls a time when the entire hero party was together and when Flume, along with Cyril, prepared delicious desserts that everyone enjoyed greatly. As she reminisces about the past, she also tells Milkit that Flume is one of the most reliable people to turn to for emotional support and advises that if Milkit ever needs anything, she should not hesitate to let Flume know. Their moment is eventually interrupted when Flume herself returns home and greets everyone warmly. Eterna pushes Milkit in front of her and tells Flume that Milkit has something she wants to say. Milkit remains hesitant about whether she should speak, but Eterna encourages her to gather her courage once more, saying that otherwise Flume will never know how she truly feels. Taking a deep breath, Milkit finally expresses all her thoughts at once. She tells Flume that she worries about her going to Guild because those men look at her with creepy eyes, so she does not want Flume to keep going there. She also mentions that the dress they looked at in the market, but did not buy would suit Flume very well, and she adds that more than anything, she really wants to try the cheesecake Flume makes. Seeing Milkit express herself so openly for the first time brings Flume to tears, as she reflects on how long she has tried to help Milkit become more expressive without success. With Eterna's help, this finally becomes reality. Flume promises to pay attention to all of Milkit's requests and hugs her warmly. Eterna watches them from a distance, feeling happy for them. Afterward, they spend some time preparing food together and eventually share a meal. Sarah also comes to their home to join them. They enjoy a hearty dinner during which Flume prepares the cheesecake. Flume also takes the opportunity to feed Milkit herself. At first, Milkit feels reluctant about being treated so affectionately, but she eventually accepts the love Flume offers. They share a sweet moment together, while everyone around them feels happy for them. After the meal ends, they all sit down in the living room to discuss the church and the secret experiments it is reportedly conducting in various regions. Flume asks Sarah whether she has managed to discover anything more about the laboratories connected to her church. Sarah replies that there is probably very little information available there. She explains that the Eastern Church is where the rich and powerful reside, making secret research difficult, while the Western Church is tied to an orphanage, which would also make keeping a laboratory hidden challenging. Overall, Sarah admits she has no clear idea where or how the church is conducting these experiments. Eterna then joins the conversation, telling them that the church's research runs far deeper than they might think. She suggests that it is likely backed by wealthy men of the kingdom, perhaps even the crown itself. She explains that the church has always maintained a complicated relationship with the crown. Outwardly, they appear to cooperate, but behind the scenes, they are engaged in a quiet struggle for power. After hearing this, both Sarah and Flume resolve to investigate further in order to uncover the truth. At the end of the conversation, Flume hands Sarah a present from Mr. Light. The selfless nun realizes that it is a reward for the work she did for him, but she insists that she cannot accept such a gift as a nun. Eterna corrects her, explaining that returning a present would be too rude, even for someone in her position. Hearing this, Sarah concludes that she has no choice but to keep the gift. She gratefully accepts it and leaves the house with the two knights who have come to pick her up. Later that night, Eterna is busy preparing what she hopes will be the perfect antidote for the scars on Milkit's face. She instructs Milkit to drink something and allow her to examine her face closely. Eterna explains that she is convinced something must have been mixed into Milkit's food to poison her, most likely by one of her previous owners. Flume suggests that the former owner may simply have been jealous of Milkit's beauty, and Eterna agrees with that possibility. While they discuss this, Milkit experiences a disturbing hallucination while looking at the mirror in her hands, though she does not mention it to either of them. The next morning, Flume prepares to begin her investigation into the church. However, as soon as she steps outside her home, she discovers something unpleasant. Numerous posters with abusive messages have been plastered across her wall. She concludes that Dine is probably behind this. Just as she thinks the situation cannot worsen, a group of guards surround her and asks her to come with them. Flume suspects they intend to frame her under Dine's orders, but she also knows she cannot harm them, since killing a kingdom guard would be a serious crime. Reluctantly, she complies with their demands and goes with them. The 7th episode begins with Flume running away from the authorities hired by Dine to abduct her. She cannot kill them because that would constitute a major crime in the city, yet she also wants to refrain from complying with their commands, leaving her with no choice but to run. Another concern weighing on her mind is the danger Milkit might be in. Flume has left her at home, but there is no telling whether some of the guards might decide to barge in on her. Meanwhile, it is reported that Milkit is sitting with Eterna and cannot help feeling worried about Flume. Not only is the weather really bad, but the house is also surrounded by a number of strange-looking people. On the other hand, it is reported that Flume continues running away from the authorities, thinking that she just wants to go home right now and save Milkit from all this mess. However, since she is being chased, she realizes there is no point in going there, as it would only put Milkit in even more danger. She then carefully decides to take them on here and make a proper escape rather than just running around endlessly. The knights attack with a variety of magic such as lightning and fire, but Flume manages to deflect them easily. However, it is reported that she is then surrounded by many men from behind as well, and one of them shoots an arrow that lands straight in her thigh, leaving her in agony. Thankfully, she has her healing ability from the cursed sword to heal her wounds. However, taking the arrow out of her leg remains just as painful as it would have been without the healing ability. Seeing this gruesome will of their foe, the knights are reported to be astounded and fearful of the girl before them. Consumed by fear, one of the men launches another arrow, but Flume dodges it and makes another run for it. This time, it is reported that she decides to jump onto the rooftops in hopes that the guards will not follow her there, and her assumption proves correct as she gets a little breathing time on top of a tower. The only thing she can think about right now is Milkit, and she hopes that she is fine. Since Eterna is with her, Flume remains hopeful that she is going to be alright. As she is lost in thought, a flyer crashes into her, and she discovers that she's been framed as a murderer, which would explain why the guards are after her. She naturally assumes that it is Dine who is behind all of this, but she realizes that going this far would mean he has some very strong connections. Two of the guards spot her from below and loose an arrow straight at Flume that lands lethally on her. She takes a huge fall from the tower, but manages to escape the guards and heals instantly. Even though she is temporarily safe, she soon realizes that guards are crawling everywhere in the area searching for her. She concludes that going back home unnoticed would be an impossible feat as she is thinking about this. It is reported that Dine and his men find Flume from behind and tell her that this is as far as she goes. Flume turns back and tells him that she did not expect the cowardly Dine to show himself on the battlefield. Dine remarks that his victory is guaranteed and that he just wants to enjoy the fox hunt as well. Dine tells her bow down to him or be killed, and naturally, Flume takes the option where she fights him. With rage consuming her for pathetic likes of Dine, Flume takes out her sword and charges straight at him despite being outnumbered. However, it is reported that Dine takes out a helpless blind girl and places her between himself and Flume. No matter how enraged she is, Flume cannot bring herself to attack Dine at the cost of putting an innocent girl in danger. Dine then takes out a very potent poison and hands it over to the girl. He tells her to drink it, and consumed by fear, the little girl shakily begins to comply. Flume shouts at Dine to let the girl go, stating that she has nothing to do with it. Dine then offers to let her go if Flume drinks the poison instead. Flume is reported to have no choice but to comply, and she drinks it. Dine and his men laugh at her, thinking they have taken care of the slave girl before them. Unbeknownst to them, Flume possesses a secret weapon, Reversal, which nullifies the effect of the poison. Flume gets up before their very eyes, and Dine has carelessly let the girl go after Flume drinks the poison. Just as it seems that things are in Flume's favor, guards suddenly appear who are under Dine's corrupt influence. Now Flume reportedly has no choice but to take them all on, risking her life. She contemplates whether she should surrender and die or fight and die, and to her the answer is always going to be to fight and die. However, it is reported that today is not the day she meets her demise, as out of the blue Audley Fokelpie appears, someone who ranks very highly in the army. She is reported to have found Dine and his men guilty of corruption, and orders the knights to capture them. Not only that, but she actively chases them as well. However, Dine and his men manage to escape, an outcome that reportedly leaves her infuriated. However, Audley resumes her duty and orders her knights to round up the knights who have been colluding with Dine. They are to be court-martialed as soon as possible. Flume goes to greet her, and Audley is surprised to see her there, even more so after noticing the slave trademark scar on her face. Apparently, they have known each other from the past. Audley asks Flume how she got the scar, and Flume simply replies that it is a long story that she will save for another time. Flume then heads over to the blind girl and asks where she lives, but the girl cannot bring herself to remember anything as she has amnesia, which leaves Flume and Audley in a bind about what their next step should be. They decide to take the little girl to Flume's home, and Audley accompanies them as well. The first thing Flume does after reaching home is give Milkit a tight hug, as she's been worried sick about her despite her own life being in danger. Eterna tells Flume that the thugs outside were taken care of by her water magic, to which Flume replies that she is eternally grateful to her. Audley also meets Eterna and is as shocked to see her as she is to see Flume in the city. Eterna explains that she left the heroes' party simply because she does not feel like fitting in with them at all. Milkit brings tea for everyone, and over a long conversation, Flume tells Audley about how she was abandoned by the heroes' party and how she got the scar. After hearing the whole story, Audley cannot help but feel infuriated at Jean for what he did to Flume. Flume's parents had entrusted Flume to Audley long ago when she was chosen as a hero, and Audley had escorted Flume to the capital from her home village. Seeing that she was once like a guardian to Flume, Audley cannot help but blame herself a little for what happened to her. However, Flume reassures her that there was not possibly anything she could have done to prevent all of this. They then have a short conversation about Dine, the person who had been giving Flume a hard time ever since she arrived in the city. Apparently, Dine is from a family that was once noble, which explains his cunning nature and quick-witted thinking. His grit, paired with his sharp mind, has allowed him to hold such influence over the West District. Everyone at the table is shocked upon hearing Dine's history, as Flume could never have believed that a lowlife like Dine was originally from a noble family. His wrongdoing compels General Henriette to have Audley take action against him. Flume and Eterna ask about who this General Henriette is, and Audley completely loses herself while trying to explain just how majestic a leader Henriette really is. In her attempt to compliment her in every detail, Audley becomes overly animated, falls down, and begins rolling over like a child. Their conversation is interrupted by the doorbell, and the person visiting them turns out to be the kind Sarah. She tells Flume that she saw a wanted flyer posted with her name on it, and rushed there to find out whether she was doing okay. Flume reassures her that she is fine, and that there is nothing to worry about. With Sarah there with them, Flume talks about the research lab they had found on their recent trip. Audley confirms that she is pretty sure the church is performing a series of experiments meant to stay hidden from the public eye. Sarah adds to the conversation something she has recently realized. She asks Flume if she still remembers a girl they had come across in that lab, and Flume clearly can never forget, as the girl had a spiral on her face that reeked of dark energy. Sarah confirms that the girl was wearing the same dress that church orphans wear. Hence, a new theory emerges that the church might be conducting their heinous experiments on the orphans they find. While they are on this topic, Audley asks Flume about the weapon she is using. She asks how it is possible since it is very obviously a curse weapon. Flume replies that it is because of her ability known as Reversal. It reverses the effect an object or thing is on her. So if the cursed sword is meant to lower her power, it ends up having the opposite effect. Eterna adds to the conversation, saying that Flume might never have been abandoned by the heroes' party had they figured out how her ability works. This also explains why the church chose her to take down the Demon King. Everyone in the heroes' party had been skeptical about Flume, since no one could really figure out how her powers worked. Everyone thought it was a mistake that the church chose her. However, it is now clear that she in fact does possess hidden powers. It was simply a matter of figuring out how they worked. Since the church itself is not a group of saints, it becomes obvious that Flume's life might be in danger. The conversation eventually ends, and later that night Flume and Milkit share a cute moment where Milkit confesses that she does not want Flume to try too hard and risk her life anymore. This only makes Milkit more worried, but Flume promises her there is nothing to worry about and that everything will be fine. Eterna then takes a look at the blind girl Flume had found while she is asleep. They notice that she is wearing the same clothes as the girls from the church's orphanage. Flume speculates that the girl might have escaped from the church. Eterna lifts her eye bands, revealing magical markers on her eyelids, which further solidifies the theory that very cruel experiments were likely performed on her. Meanwhile, Dine is injured while trying to escape from the authorities and finds himself in an abandoned house, attempting to patch himself up. Someone knocks on the door, and it turns out to be one of his friends. Dine is initially glad to see him, but the friend reveals that Dine has been deemed too weak a leader and is here to take him out. Dine narrowly escapes from his former ally turned enemy. He finds himself in a dark alleyway during his attempt to flee and overhears a very unpleasant sound. He is then confronted by an oversized, disturbing monster. The monster has many faces, and among them is the face of his former friend, Phil. The 8th episode begins with the girl Flume found experiencing breakfast for the very first time. Eterna's care works flawlessly, and the girl appears to be in a good mood and high spirits. She carefully inspects every item on the table, from the eggs to the salad and even the coffee. After finishing everything, she remarks that although she may have eaten such food before, she has never experienced such profound flavor. She eats as quickly as she can, clearly indicating that she was not properly fed in the orphanage. Flume tells her to slow down, and the girl realizes for the first time that her food is not going anywhere. Her rushed eating reflects her poor upbringing. Growing up in a constant state of survival has taught her to act hastily and efficiently rather than slowing down to enjoy the moment. Once she finishes eating, everyone formally introduces themselves to her, and she introduces herself in return. She says her name is Ink Wreathcraft, and much like Milkit, she has not experienced much love. She wonders how people who are not related can live together under the same roof. She later states that she does not want to go anywhere, explaining that she has amnesia and cannot recall her past life at all. No matter how hard she tries, she cannot remember anything from before meeting Flume. Flume feels conflicted about what should be done with the girl. While it is clear that the child did not have a happy life, there is also the possibility that someone worried might be searching for her. Flume speaks with Sarah and several of her knights about the situation. She asks whether anyone from the church's orphanage might have escaped or gone missing. Sarah replies that no orphan has been reported missing from the orphanages of his region or any other region of the kingdom, though she plans to double-check the information. One of the knights suggests that, regardless of whether a child is officially missing, Flume should consider returning her to the orphanage, reasoning that it might be better for both the child and Flume herself. However, Flume refuses. She says she has grown attached to the girl and would not be able to forgive herself if she abandoned her without ensuring the child's well-being. This is not her only reason. She is also worried that the girl might have escaped from a church research facility, and returning her to an orphanage controlled by the church would only ensure she is sent back to that dreadful origin. After parting ways with Sarah and the knights, Flume heads straight to the Adventurers Guild. She speaks to the receptionist and asks whether there are any jobs related to searching for a missing child. The receptionist carefully checks the available requests but informs her, to her disappointment, that no missing child has been reported from this region or any other region so far. Meanwhile, Dine's lackeys enter the building, with Connie's at the center of attention. Dine himself is absent, and instead of showing concern about their missing leader, the followers belittle him. The receptionist tells Flume that although they once followed Dine religiously, they now speak about him as if he had always been their enemy. The receptionist assigns Flume a guard job and reminds her to update her address, as she is now living in a new home. Their conversation ends, and Flume leaves the building. Just as she steps outside, a wealthy woman arrives in a carriage and enters the Adventurers Guild. She introduces herself to the receptionist and says she would like to submit a job request regarding a missing child. Meanwhile, Milkit and Ink finish doing the laundry together. Milkit thanks Ink for helping her, even though she did not have to. Ink responds that she finds doing laundry fun and says she has the time of her life while doing it. Soon after, Eterna comes over and tells Ink that she should take a bath, reminding her that she went to bed the previous night without taking one. They share a warm bath and later come out refreshed. On the other hand, Milkit is nearly finished with her cooking. Flume then arrives back home. The first thing she does is greet everyone and compliment Milkit on the aroma of her cooking that has filled the house. As soon as Flume and Milkit see each other, they go into each other's arms. Even though Ink cannot see, she says she can still feel the sweetness in the air. Sarah also comes over and meets Ink for the first time. Ink assumes that Sarah is a freeloader who comes over every night just for the food. Sarah does not object to the accusation, admitting that she finds Milkit's cooking nothing short of divine. Nevertheless, she shows her gratitude. During the meal, Ink and Sarah engage in a food-eating competition. By the end of it, both of them are stuffed with more food than they can easily handle. To conclude the day, Flume gives Ink a gift, a new dress with a bow. Everyone agrees that the dress reflects her vibrant personality quite well and suits her perfectly. Meanwhile, Audley continues her investigation to find Dine. She locates one of his loyal men who can reveal his whereabouts and tortures him effectively to force the information out of him. Eventually, the poor man gives into her ruthless nature and spills the location. On the other hand, the next day, some of Dine's lackeys engage in a conflict among themselves. One faction argues that he is a strong leader who needs to be supported, claiming he can even stand against the church. while the other insists that he is nothing more than a man who is good with words but otherwise useless. The representatives of the two factions settle their dispute with an arm wrestling match right in front of the store, disrupting the owner's business. No matter how many times the owner tells them to stop causing trouble in front of the store, they refuse to listen. This is the very store Flume is hired to guard. She appears suddenly and tells everyone to scram. One of the men attempts to retaliate, but this only gives Flume the opportunity to make an example out of him. After defeating him effortlessly, she orders the rest to disperse, and they have no choice but to comply. After the commotion dies down, a man comes running toward the store to announce that Dine has been located. Flume overhears this and immediately confronts him about Dine's whereabouts. Lacking the courage to stand up to her, he quickly reveals the location without much resistance. It turns out that Dine has joined the church, a claim Flume struggles to believe. His men view this as an act of cowardice, but Flume decides to visit the church to confirm the truth for herself. The claim proves to be true. Dine is seen wearing the church's garments, yet something is clearly wrong with him. Flume moves to approach and confront him, but a hooded figure stops her from behind. The figure reveals herself to be Adelie. Adelie warns Flume that this is not the right time to confront Dine, as he is now under the church's authority, and approaching him recklessly would be unwise. They leave the area and find themselves standing atop one of the country's massive walls. There, Adelie reveals a grim reality. She tells Flume that some of Dine's men, along with soldiers from the army who had joined him, have been found dead, their corpses grotesquely intertwined. The church has ensured that these deaths remain anonymous, pulling strings that reach as far as the king himself. Adelie states that, at this point, even the king appears to be nothing more than a puppet of the church. This unsettling revelation is difficult for Flume to accept. However, considering the church's recent actions, the possibility does not seem entirely far-fetched. After concluding her grim conversation with Adelie, Flume returns home. What begins as a day filled with harsh realizations ends on a good note, as they all share their meal together as close friends. The 9th episode begins with Flume and Milkit greeting each other in the morning, after spending the previous night sleeping in each other's arms. They get out of bed and think about the day ahead, after which Milkit begins her routine of cooking for everyone. Flume remains in awe of how the night with Milkit unfolded and continues to dwell on it. It is conveyed that the two share a romantic moment in which Milkit expresses that she wants only Flume to see her face, stating that she will keep it hidden in front of everyone else. Flume, deeply in love, is pleased by the idea and repeatedly smiles as she recalls that moment. However, Eterna reacts negatively to this arrangement. She questions Flume about why Milkit is still wearing her bandages now that her face is healed, despite already knowing the answer. By this point, it becomes evident that Flume has grown extremely possessive of Milkit, with her love having reached its peak. When Ink shows Milkit affection with a hug, Flume's possessiveness visibly takes over, as the gesture feels less like a simple embrace and more like a stab straight to Flume's heart. Eterna then reassures everyone that there is nothing to worry about, explaining that Flume is merely being influenced by a low-level demon of possessiveness. The episode continues with Flume finishing her meal and deciding to take on a new task from the Adventurers Guild. She heads straight to the site to complete her mission so that she can continue paying the bills. However, when she reaches a destination, she realizes that the area is far too crowded and that something about the situation feels wrong. She soon smells a strong and unpleasant stench coming from nearby and decides to follow it. The smell leads her to an ominous sight. A monster formed from humans merged together like mud, with faces and legs sticking out of the mass. Before she can bring herself to take any action, the Knights of the Holy Church intervene. Although there are already other knights at the site, the newly arrived knights immediately take authority and instruct Ed and Johnny to take responsibility for crowd control. After the entire situation settles down, Flume meets up with Johnny and Ed, who are known to be Sarah's close friends. Flume asks them whether they have any idea about what is going on and what could have caused those people to blend together into what she calls a very ugly meatball. The two reply that even they have no clear understanding of the situation. They explain that when chaos erupts, the knights posted closest to the event usually take charge. However, the knights who give orders to Johnny and Ed on this occasion are posted far from that location. Not only that, they are also very high-ranking knights, the kind who normally would not respond to an initial disturbance. They are members of the Pope's inner circle. Flume cannot help but think that the church appears to be shrouded in mystery and filled with powerful connections. It becomes obvious to her that someone is trying to cover things up. Johnny and Ed further explain that all the victims reportedly claim to have been attacked by a giant hovering eye. This revelation raises more questions than answers, leaving Flume caught in speculation for the time being. Meanwhile, the hero's party faces yet another failure. Jean grows extremely frustrated and takes her anger out on Cyril. She also realizes that she cannot blame anyone but herself, as her performance has declined ever since Flume left the group. Jean reflects on how constantly watching out for Flume used to drain her energy, which is why she supported the idea of removing Flume from the party. even though she never knew that Flume had been sold as a slave. However, once Flume actually leaves the group, Jean loses her ability to fight effectively altogether. Cyril wonders how someone could sink so low as to end up in such a state. At the same time, Linus and Maria hold a conversation away from the rest of the group. Linus suggests that perhaps the two of them should leave the party for good, just as Flume and Eterna did, since they are not making much progress anyway. Maria asks what the two of them would do if they were to leave the heroes' party. Linus romantically proposes that they could travel together to some of his favorite sightseeing places. Although Maria likes the idea of a vacation, she ultimately declines the offer, explaining that she has vowed to defeat all the demons. She recalls how she witnessed firsthand how ruthless they can be when her entire village was wiped out before her eyes. That trauma compels her to keep fighting until every last demon has been eliminated. She also tells Linus that she still has family in the capital whom she must protect. Meanwhile, Eterna is busy in her study when Ink interrupts her. Ink expresses her desire to give a name to the mana-optimizing floating object that Eterna always carries with her. Eterna uses this opportunity to ask Ink a few questions, telling her that she can name the object if she answers correctly. Ink appears reluctant and feels as though she is being interrogated. She reminds Eterna that she has amnesia and therefore may not be able to answer much. Eterna asks whether Ink knows anything about her own heart problems or whether she remembers ever taking medicine for her heart. Ink replies that she cannot remember ever being treated for a heart condition or even having one in the first place. Eterna does not seem satisfied with the answer and grows somewhat skeptical, almost as if she suspects that Ink may be hiding something. Later that night, everyone gathers for dinner when Sarah visits once again. The group shares a warm conversation about family and friendship, during which Sarah confesses that she sees everyone at the table as family. Everyone receives this sentiment positively except for Ink, whose post-traumatic stress disorder is triggered by the topic, as she has never had a good past with her own family. That night she wakes up in distress, and Eterna comes to her room with some rose tea. Eterna explains that whenever one's spirits are low, rose tea can be the perfect antidote to lift them. She then tells Ink that she reminds Eterna very much of her former self. The following day, Sarah once again heads toward Flume's home, hoping to enjoy another meal cooked by Milkit. On the way, she overhears several men discussing a final battle between Dine and Connie's, with people placing bets on who will emerge victorious. Intrigued by the conversation, Sarah decides to go to the site of the battle after searching for her two brothers. Meanwhile, the battle between Connie's and Dine begins. Connie strikes the first blow and severs Dine's arm. Just as everyone believed the outcome of the fight has already been decided, Dine rises again. His amputated arm transforms into a scythe, and in a sudden motion, he decapitates Connie's instantly. In a hallucination caused by the voices inside his head, Dine begins celebrating his supposed victory, only to realize moments later that the lifeless body before him once belonged to Connie's. One of Connie's loyal subordinates takes the defeat personally and attacks Dine from behind, repeatedly striking him to ensure that he is killed. However, the most grim event follows immediately after. A huge number of cursed eyeballs suddenly appear out of thin air and begin swarming everyone in the region, turning people into giant cursed meatballs. The mist that produces the eyeballs begins absorbing people and soon starts chasing Sarah and her brothers as well. At one moment, Johnny realizes that he must stay behind and hold off the mist and the swarming eyeballs if Ed and Sarah are to have any chance of survival. He stops and draws his sword to fight. Sarah's pride refuses to accept this decision, but Ed grabs her and forces her to run as Johnny remains behind to face an unwinnable battle alone. Tears run down Sarah's face as the reality of losing one of her brothers begins to sink in. After some time, Ed realizes that continuing to run would be futile. In a final desperate attempt to save Sarah, he throws her into the river and bravely takes a stand against a swarm of eyeballs, giving her a chance to escape. Before she can even think or react, Sarah is swept away by the heavy current and eventually reaches the shore. Despite the efforts of her brothers to slow the rampage of the cursed eyeballs, the creatures eventually reach Sarah while she is in her most vulnerable state, both physically and emotionally. As the dreadful eyes approach her from behind, carrying death with them, she struggles to survive until her very last breath. She attempts to preserve the gift of life given to her by God and protect it through the sacrifices of her brothers. She tries to climb away with every ounce of strength she has left, but her exhausted arms betray her will to survive. She falls to the ground and looks up at the sky above, realizing that death will engulf her within moments. As she draws what she believes to be her final breath, she thinks of her family and silently offers a heartfelt apology to her brothers for not being able to live on. The regret does not trouble her heart for long, as death frees her from her suffering in the very next instant. The 10th episode begins with Flume heading to the Adventurers Guild to take on some new tasks for money. At the guild, the receptionist tells her that shortly after Flume left the last time, an old lady came in with a job regarding the retrieval of a lost child. The woman is described as a wealthy individual who goes by the name of Saddles Francois. The receptionist explains that she saved this task specifically for Flume because she wanted to see if someone would come looking for a child. Hearing this makes Flume extremely grateful to her. The receptionist also informs Flume that Connie's and Dine had a duel to the death the previous day in order to determine the true underground ruler of the district. It becomes clear that Dine won the fight, as Connie's has not returned to the guild since that day. Flume is taken aback by this unexpected turn of events and does not quite know what to make of it. She leaves the Adventurers Guild and heads toward a location where the duel between Connie's and Dine took place. However, when she arrives, she finds that the area has been sealed off by the official authorities and is now covered in a mysterious white mist along with an unpleasant odor. Flume still cannot fully understand what happened, so she eventually decides to return home. Once back home, she plans on giving a new present she bought for her. She had also purchased the same present for Sarah, but Sarah has not come to their home for quite some time. The room is filled with strange tension, as Sarah usually visits every other day to eat Milket's cooking, yet she has not shown up for a while. This absence makes everyone begin to wonder if something might be wrong. Flume tries to remain optimistic and tells everyone that Sarah probably has some church work to take care of and that she will meet up with them again soon. Flume, despite trying her best to keep everyone's mind at ease, is plagued with overthinking. She knows better than anyone that Sarah not coming to their home is far from normal. The next day, without informing anyone, she heads straight to the church and speaks with one of the sisters about Sarah. Upon hearing Sarah's name, the sister instantly bursts into tears. With a heavy heart, she tells Flume that Sarah was excommunicated by the Pope not too long ago for the crime of being a devil worshiper. Despite being a nun at the church, she admits that she cannot bring herself to believe that such an accusation could be true about a bright girl like Sarah. Flume finds this peculiar as well, since she knows for a fact that Sarah had begun to suspect the church of some wrongdoing. She then tries to reach the two people closest to Sarah, Johnny and Ed. However, after speaking with some of the knights, she learns that the two knights closest to Sarah have been posted out of city quite recently. Flume begins to sense that a much greater conspiracy is at play. She finds it impossible to believe that Johnny and Ed would be transferred to a new location out of nowhere at the same time that Sarah is excommunicated. She then turns toward the last person who might know about their whereabouts, the only other person she knows who has been investigating the church. She heads straight to the office of General Henriette and asks her directly about the location of Ottilie. To her surprise, Ottilie has been missing for some time as well. Flume cannot believe what she is hearing. The strong Ottilie, who had been investigating the church head-on, is now nowhere to be found. Henriette, being a strong woman, does not break into tears but expresses deep remorse for leaving Ottilie on her own during the church investigation. She had always admired Ottilie and her strong sense of justice, but now it seems that this very sense of justice has come back to harm her. With no new information to pursue, Flume has no choice but to leave and end her investigation, which has led her nowhere. Later, she meets with Milkett and breaks down emotionally in front of her, believing that everything is her fault for getting Sarah involved in a hidden battle against the church. Milkett reassures Flume that she is more than worthy of love, and that she is the reason Milkett has fallen in love with her life. She explains that the daily chores she now performs carry a much greater meaning because of Flume. Milkett reminds her that she is the perfect master, and that there is no need for her to feel so terrible about herself. Later that night, as the weight of guilt grows heavier on her, Flume decides to follow the only lead in her investigation, and that is Ink. She tells Ink that it is time for her to reveal her past, and that there is no point in hiding it anymore. Although her tone is authoritative, Flume still maintains a sense of kindness. In a final desperate attempt, Ink once again tries to convince them that she suffers from amnesia. However, Eterna tells her that they are all well aware that the amnesia is merely a lie Ink has been using to hide her past. Feeling cornered, Ink realizes that she has no choice but to tell them everything. Flume also informs her that a woman is currently searching for her, and has even hired the Adventurers Guild to assist in the search. Ink falls into a state of nervous shock, believing that her mother would never care enough about her to look for her. However, the reality appears to be quite different. Ink then reveals that she comes from a family of 7, and that she has 4 younger siblings who are not related to her by blood. She explains that she ran away from home without permission. She also mentions that she has a heart condition for which she used to take medicine provided by them, although she has not taken the medicine for quite some time and is still doing just fine. She explains that they told her she needed to take the drug because she is a first generation. Her father, according to her, is a mysterious figure who can communicate with all of them through telepathy. However, since Ink is a first generation, she requires the drug in order for the system to work. None of them were ever allowed to see their father. Of course, the more they learn about Ink, the more unanswered questions begin to arise. It becomes clear that her past is surrounded by a deep mystery that still needs to be unraveled. Eventually, Ink reveals the most chilling detail of all. She tells everyone that the name of her father is Origin, and this revelation brings a heavy silence to the entire room. Flume and Eterna later have a hard time sleeping and share a small conversation during the night. During this conversation, Eterna reveals that Ink's heart is no longer beating, yet she appears to be completely fine. Meanwhile, at the demon castle, Shidem has a conversation with one of her fellow demons, and it is revealed to him that yet another member of the hero's party has left them. At the same time, Nygas has not been around for quite a while, as she has returned to Kingdom to continue her research. The next day, Flume decides to ask around town to see if anyone has seen Ed and Johnny. She manages to gather some clues about their last whereabouts, and her investigation eventually leads her to encounter Welsie. Welsie tells Flume that everyone who came to witness the battle between Dine and Connie's has mysteriously disappeared, and Sarah must have been one of them. They examine a wall covered with multiple blade strikes. Each strike varies in depth and length, indicating that different blades were used to create them. Welsie believes that investigating this place is a waste of her time since she is focusing on the church, so she prepares to leave. However, Flume stops her and asks about her investigation into the herbs that are being smuggled to the church. Welsie brings up the familiar name of Saddles Francois, suggesting that she might be the culprit behind it. After sharing this information, she leaves. Flume returns home and asks Eterna to teach her magic, so she can better protect her friends and milk it. They begin her training as quickly as possible, and after becoming exhausted, Flume falls asleep much earlier than usual. Eterna and Milkit decide to go shopping while Flume rests, but they end up encountering Dine, who is as sinister as ever. He laughs maniacally and asks Eterna if she would like to know the truth about the children, since one of them is living inside their house. Eterna suspects that he is about to reveal something disturbing, so she uses water magic to cover Milkit's ears. Dine then reveals the truth, stating that all of those children have dark crystals embedded inside them. Immediately after this revelation, hundreds of ominous eyeballs appear out of nowhere. Milkit runs to Flume and wakes her up while completely soaked in water. She tells Flume that Eterna is in danger. Flume grabs a towel to dry Milkit, who appears to have gotten wet out of nowhere. However, when Flume returns, she is shocked to find that Milkit has disappeared. She begins searching around the house, following the trail of water left behind. She even follows the trail outside, but it leads nowhere. At the same time, a mysterious mist begins to spread across the entire city. In agony, Flume rushes back home to check on Ink, hoping that at least one of her friends has been spared from calamity. Her hopes are shattered in the most brutal way possible when she discovers Ink in her room, surrounded by the same ominous eyeballs that took Sarah's life. When Flume takes a closer look, she realizes that Ink's face has turned into a dark purple pitted spiral. The 11th episode begins with Flume standing in total shock as memories rush into her mind. She begins to connect Sarah's death to Ink, noticing the eyeballs surrounding her and the dark spiral on her face. Flume starts to lose herself, as the sight before her is far from pleasant, and the realization of the dark truth settling in is even worse. As she remains lost in her dark thoughts, Ink shouts her name and moves closer to her. To Flume's surprise, Ink's face appears completely normal again, and the ominous eyeballs disappear into thin air. Out of desperation, Flume begins shouting at Ink, blaming her for the calamity at hand. According to Flume's theory, the church has likely conducted rigorous experiments on Ink, which explains why Ink does not have a heart. The medicine prescribed to her is believed to control her dark powers, and since she has stopped taking it, those powers have become rampant without anyone realizing. Flume believes it started with Sarah, Ed, and Johnny, and now Eterna and Milkit are gone as well. Ink insists that she would never hurt her friends, but Flume is far too consumed by negative emotions to think rationally. She places all the blame on Ink, which causes her to panic and run away from a house. To make matters worse, Dine is just outside the house as well. He calls out Flume's name, ordering her to come out and face him. Flume, despite being emotionally pushed to her breaking point, gathers her will and steps outside to face Dine. He stands before her with Ink in his hands. While Flume blames Ink for all the calamity that has happened recently, she still sees Ink as a friend and a victim of the church, so she orders Dine to let her go. However, Dine is clearly not about to yield without a fight. He also reveals that he is the one behind the kidnapping of Milkit, and that, by this time, she is already being tortured by her real master, Saddles Francois. Naturally, Flume's fear takes the shape of uncontrollable rage as she charges straight toward Dine with her sword. He manages to evade the attack and makes a run for it. After a brief game of cat and mouse, Dine's large number of lackeys ambush Flume in the mist. However, something feels off about them, as when Flume scans them, she realizes that they all have the same name and stats. There's only one explanation for this. The church must have done something to all of them. Flume takes them all on valiantly, but is clearly on the losing end of the battle because of the sheer number of opponents she faces. At that moment, a voice full of hope calls out her name and tells her to strike the ground with her prana. She understands exactly what the voice is telling her to do, which is to unleash an attack known as the Cavalier Arts. Prana Storm, a technique that releases a barrage of sword strikes, perfect for taking on many enemies at once. The man finally arrives at Flume's side, and it is the familiar face of Gadio. Together, they take out the remaining men of Dine. Gadio explains that he is here because Sarah told him to save Flume. These words strike a ray of hope in the heart of the tormented Flume, as she feels relieved to know that a very close friend of hers still breathes the same air as her. Their reunion is short-lived as a portal opens up and a childlike Ink comes out of it. She has a spiral on her face, which clearly indicates that she is a subject of the church's rigorous experimentation. Gadio stays back to deal with her, while Flume moves ahead to search for her friends. Her chase of Dine leads her to the mansion of Saddles Francois, and she enters by breaking one of his windows. Dine welcomes her to the mansion and tells her that this is the place where he will take her down for good. Their battle begins as Flume charges him with her sword, but Dine's hands take the form of tentacles, blocking the attacks and pushing her into a wall. He then unleashes a ray of charge beams that forces Flume to retreat, and one of the beams even cuts off Flume's dominant arm. She manages to catch that arm with her left hand and find cover to heal it. Dine admits that Flume's healing ability is a nuisance, while Flume responds that the same can be said about his body. She charges him with another barrage of attacks, calling him a despicable person for betraying all of his friends for power from the church and the Origin. Dine counters that if she were offered all the power in the world, she would also let go of her friends, believing that everyone in the world is as despicable as he is. Their fighting eventually destroys the floor, and Flume finds herself landing in a disturbing room, where Saddles likely carries out torture and experimentation on slaves. She continues to fight valiantly, and even uses her special attacks like Piranha's Shaker, but with all his tentacles extended, Dine is far too maneuverable to be hit by such a slow attack. Eventually, he catches Flume from behind with his tentacles and begins to choke her with all his strength. As he chokes the life out of her, Dine reflects on how he has lost everything, from his noble position to his friends and all the contacts he has ever made, almost as if everything he built was destroyed overnight. However, he sees one silver lining. He can get his revenge on Flume Apricot. Although the higher-ups instructed him to capture her alive, he does not care. To him, killing Flume is the only thing left that can bring him any sense of satisfaction. Flume reaches the brink of death, but thinks of pushing the tentacles away and activates the power of reversal, which corrodes him easily, giving her the chance to escape and create some distance. Dine cannot understand what has happened and tries to capture her again with his tentacles, but this time Flume realizes that her reversal even works on powers granted by the Origin. She combines reversal with Piranha's Shaker, and this corrodes Dine's tentacles for good. In a final desperate attempt, Dine calls out the Cursed Eyeballs and orders them to kill Flume. One of the eyeballs even destroys Flume's leg, which she instantly heals. However, they soon stop their attack, and Dine cannot explain why. Flume immediately realizes that this is Ink's power, and that she is the one preventing the crystal eyeballs from harming her. Flume feels regret for blaming and shouting at Ink earlier, realizing that Ink likely did not even know she was capable of all this, and is still trying her best not to harm her. With all his cards revealed, Dine is left helpless, pushed against the wall by Flume. The power of the Origin begins to take over his body, and his face turns into a spiral. He makes one last attempt to take Flume down, but she uses reversal and pierces her sword straight through him, destroying the core embedded inside him.